The most searched individual of 2022, international businessman, influential enough to polarize society.
Anti-woman.
I love women. In fact, interesting statistic, 100% of the people I've ever had sex with were women. So
my friend group partially imploded over this man, so I took a couple months to really process what Andrew Tate was saying. And I can't agree with everything he's saying, but that is a fact of life. You're not going to agree with everything anybody says, and if you do, you're lying to yourself. But that doesn't mean I can't point out the fact that the man's got some points in my book. I'm just being honest here. For men, it's easy to get engrossed in his content and his message. It's extremely captivating. And he has a lot of valid arguments in regards to intersexual dynamics and society, or the matrix.
When I talk about the matrix, I'm talking about the systems which have been created by society, which are deliberately designed to enslave. And you're existing inside of a system which is deliberately rigged.
And the reason I call it the matrix is because a false reality is being projected onto humanity, and they do that by controlling narrative.
For women, obviously, the barrier for entry is much higher because of the negative things that he says about them. It's absolutely harder to listen to and digest the words of somebody who's speaking in what's a generally negative connotation and detrimental sounding way about you.
Boom in her face and grip her up by the neck. Shut up, bitch!
I have a mom, 4 sisters, 2 grandmothers, 6 nieces. I'm the only son. Majority of my inner circle is women. And what I can tell you is that Tate's message to men makes me feel a need to take better care of them and reinforces the natural, proper way of treating women that I've seen from my own father and other well-respected men in society. Always respectful, uplifting, a strong provider. I would do anything for any of them, even if it cost me my life. But I can't agree with the other side of the same coin that is essentially disrespect of women disguised with an outlandish persona. Women are not property. Women are capable of doing everything a man can do. Women are just as intelligent as men. Yeah, yes, women can drive, but it's complete malarkey to act like men and women are not different and can compete to the same ability in different endeavors. That's why some professions are male dominant and some are female dominant. That's why there are separate sports leagues for men and women, and even trans women, male to female, are not allowed to compete alongside natural born women. And no, my girl is not gonna go on Instagram shaking her ass. I don't feel bad about agreeing with him on that. I'd actually give him a handshake for having the balls to stand up to an entire movement that tells you the opposite. That it's empowering to overly sexualize yourself, and that sexual liberation on the same scale as a man going and having sex with multiple women is the exact same thing. It's an unspoken truth that women should not be hoes. I mean, the first thing that women say to each other in times of disarray is, she's a slut, she's green, she's loose, XYZ, ABC, among other whoosy whatsits and the fuck nots, you know? Most people, when asked why they don't like him or why they hate him, genuinely cannot tell you why. It's typically, I saw his clip on TikTok and I didn't like it. I don't like how he said this. But then they did no effort on their own part to go and get the rest of the context and see the actual situation at hand. The typical responses I see are, he's a human trafficker, which is debunked allegedly, but is still a wild allegation to have against you. I'm not knocking that at all. He's a sexist and a misogynist. He's teaching young boys bad values and ill will. That last part, let me explain why you're wrong. That being said, I'm strongly against human trafficking. If he's a human trafficker and it comes out that that stuff was true, he deserves to be under the jail. That is another fact of life.
Honestly, like, I know this might, like, don't take this the wrong way, like, he's funny, because he's, like, very matter of fact, like, very aggressive with his opinions, and it's funny how he proposes them, but, like, I think his beliefs are fucked up. I agree.
You gotta admit, the man is well-spoken with a great message, and unfortunately, my first thought while writing that was, so was Hitler. Not the great message part, just the well-spoken. All the most powerful individuals on this planet are well-spoken and articulate. He has captivated the world through his public speaking skills and is able to articulate himself in such a way where he isn't able to be coerced into saying something that's out of his character. But that's a good value to be spreading to the youth. You should be good at public speaking. You should be able to articulate yourself. You should be able to hold your frame. You should treat everybody well and take no disrespect. Respect those who deserve it. Maybe teach yourself and your kids to have critical thinking skills so that they don't take everything he says with an ocean's worth of salt rather than just 1 grain. When spreading values of standing strong on your morals, speaking with vigor, being a strong man in all aspects, everyone's always saying, yeah, he doesn't seem that bad in this clip. But then he says, don't wife a hoe, don't wife someone who compromises your values, master key many shitty locks among other what the fucks and whoosy what's it.
A key that opens any lock is a master key, but a lock that can be opened by any key is a shitty ass lock.
So which one are you though? That's what the people want to know.
I'm a shitty lock.
So my response to that is obviously you want your son, husband, nephew, insert male figure in your life to be a pussy and let his significant other disrespect him. And then y'all be like, Now, I agree it can become problematic when you're saying things that can be taken wildly out of context or misunderstood by the younger generation. That's when the wrong ideas can be reinforced, and especially during the formative years, neuroplasticity is still extremely high. This stuff can get stuck in their brain for forever. You can't go around and say that you own your woman and her assets. You also can't say that you're gonna grip up your woman by the neck and slap her across the face because she's not listening to you. That's completely fucked. It may be different in your relationship dynamic, but 80% always outweighs 20%. That's basic math. Makeup videos, how to swoon him videos, how I scam men for money and resources videos should be allowed, but when you tell men that they are powerful and should become a force to be reckoned with, carry some fucking big dick energy and be the man, now that's a bad thing. Tate's launch into the space is completely necessary. It's videos for a generation facing specific problems and circumstances. Majority of what I've heard is not anything profound. It's common conversation from men and women with traditional values. He's saying everything that most people already know, had a feeling about, or are too scared to say. He's just extremely direct with how he says it. Most people in modern society know inherently that overly sexualizing yourself on the internet as if you were an OnlyFans model is going to be detrimental to your future. But when you actually say it, it now becomes a problem. And actually, when I bring these points to different people without saying that I saw it from an Andrew Tate video, they typically tend to agree with me. So it's not what he's saying, it's how he's saying it. Why shouldn't we be telling young men that they should be treating women with respect, in the long run building wealth and status, removing yourself from the 9-to-5 rat race? At the same time, you could be building this status and wealth and messing with an individual who's going to compromise your values and all this work that you've put in. You cannot form a full opinion on somebody without taking your time to truly understand what they have to say. Many say that this niche of male self-improvement, also known as the manosphere, is a place of misogynistic programming, teaching young boys and men to disrespect and have a disdain or hatred towards women. In no way is majority of this space spreading a misogynistic message as some media would like you to think. In general, it's a community of well-respected and accomplished men teaching the young men of the world how to become that desirable men that most women want. Not only is it teaching this about women, but it's also teaching how to become desirable and important to the lives around you. While I'm completely positive there are some incels who are creating this content, watch this feminist get wrecked, watch this girl embarrass herself, there are bound to be channels who promote this message, but we need to work within the bounds of reason. Once again, the exception does not make the rule. There are likely to be negative influences and people spreading a message with an ulterior motive in any community. In fact, in most, if not all communities online, that is the case. The boys and young men of the world shouldn't watch content like this, but they should watch characters and be promoted such characters such as James Charles, promoting that this is a good male role model when he's quite literally in the past year admitted to having sex with an underage male. Open your feminine side, but do no work on the masculine side. All the things you naturally want to do are wrong. Only in this age would we create such a problem and then complain about it. It's the same people who push this radicalized messaging on both sides that complain the most about it. Men complaining that they can't find a good woman who's not a hoe, but watch what is essentially incel porn and then go jerk off for 5 hours of the day. Women who complain that there's no good men left, but consume videos preaching that they should never change. Your dream man's gonna fall into your lap, and then they go shake ass on Instagram in the name of empowerment. Oh, they don't make them like Nia Long anymore. I don't know who the women like. Oh, they don't make them like Tupac. I don't know, but why do you think that is? It's a product of our own processes, and both sides are perpetuating a society that they do not want to live in. Don't forget, it's all in 15-second clips, so it's either wildly out of context or it's melting your brain with every swipe. Sit here and tell me that instead of going to the gym before I recorded this video, I should have sat home and learned how to do my makeup. Tell the young men of the world that they shouldn't look for a better job and build themselves up. Tell an entire generation to chase happiness, hedonistic pleasure, and coddle them, and then complain about it. Gen Z is too weak and they have no drive. Why is Gen Z having no sex? Why is Gen Z more depressed and anxiety ridden than ever? Well, it's a product of our own processes. Is masculinity itself toxic? I can't agree with that, but toxic masculinity does exist. A cultural concept of manliness that glorifies stoicism, strength, virility, and dominance that is socially maladaptive or harmful to mental health. Men and women both suffer when toxic masculinity is perpetuating expectations and ideas that are restrictive and traumatizing. As George Carlin says, it's all just a bunch of dudes who are afraid their dicks are too little, so they overcompensate by being overly aggressive, lifting their truck up and hanging massive nuts off the back, building missiles that are phallic shaped.
What all that adolescent macho male posturing and strutting in bars and locker rooms is all about. It's called dick fear.
I've watched a good amount of Tate's videos and it's positively impacted my life. What's intriguing is that the same people who villainize Andrew and his message treat me with more respect and perceived value than they ever would have just a few months ago. The way I carry myself and my personal values have been affected in a positive way. That does not mean I treat women as lesser than men, or justify human trafficking or hitting women. If that's what you got from this far in the video, it's quite apparent to me that you were not paying attention. You lack the unmatched perspicacity. It's common sense that anybody with basic critical thinking skills can listen to a message and extrapolate what's good or bad, positive, negative, up, down, left, right, north, south, east, west, and apply those points to their own life rather than being a part of the hive mind that agrees with the masses simply to avoid social isolation and cancellation. Even I was reluctant to release this video. I had to talk to my mom about it before I even wrote points and notes about this. Unfortunately, not all sense is common. Escape the Matrix.